Absolutely. Curious. Most people over 65 have been told a simple story. Your stem cells are disappearing, your repair system is fading, and that is just what aging does. Size, but that may not be the real story. Because in many tissues, especially muscle, the problem is not always that these repair cells are gone. The deeper problem is that they may still be there, but they are receiving weaker signals, living in a harsher environment, and responding more slowly than they once did. In other words, your stem cells may not be dead. They may be getting ignored, suppressed, or biologically kept quiet by the way the body is aging and by the signals you send it every single day. Thoughtful. And this is where the story gets much more important after 65, because one of the most common daily habits in modern life may be helping shut that repair signal down right now. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, day after day. That habit is too much sitting and too little muscle use. Curious. I know that sounds almost too simple, but stay with me because what happens next matters most. You see, stem cells are like a reserve repair crew. They do not spend all day constantly rebuilding tissue. Many of them stay in a resting state, almost like skilled workers waiting for the alarm bell to ring. In muscle, for example, these cells help support repair when tissue is damaged or stressed. But as we age, the cells themselves can change, and the environment around them changes even more. Scientists call that environment the stem cell niche. That is just a technical way of describing the local neighborhood around the cell, the chemical signals, immune activity, blood flow, nutrient status, and tissue conditions that tell the cell whether to stay quiet, wake up, divide, or help with repair. So when people say your stem cells are gone after 65, that is often too crude to be true. A more accurate picture is this. Many adult stem cells remain present, but they may become less responsive, less regenerative, and more easily disrupted by inflammation, metabolic stress, and inactivity. Some research even suggests that older muscle stem cells can become more focused on survival and stress resistance while losing some of their regenerative power. That means the repair crew is still in the building, but it is no longer moving with youthful speed. And here is what most people never get told. Your body is constantly interpreting your behavior as biological instruction. If you challenge your muscles, move your joints, circulate your blood, and regularly ask your body to maintain strength and function, you send a message that repair still matters. But if you spend long stretches sitting, underusing your muscles, and rarely giving your body a reason to maintain resilience, you may be sending the opposite message. After 65, that matters more than ever. Because muscle is not just something that helps you walk across a room. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It helps regulate blood sugar. It affects inflammatory signaling. It communicates with the immune system. It influences hormones and the entire internal environment that stem cells live inside. When muscle contracts, it does much more than create motion. It changes chemistry. It helps create a more favorable setting for repair. Now think about the opposite. Think about hours and hours of sitting. When that becomes the default state, muscle contraction drops. Glucose handling often worsens. Blood flow patterns change. Metabolic flexibility declines. Low-grade inflammation may rise. And over time, that creates exactly the kind of internal environment that makes tissue maintenance harder, especially in older adults. This does not mean every hour of sitting is dangerous, and it certainly does not mean a chair is the enemy. The issue is persistent sedentary living, when too much of the day passes without meaningful muscle activation. And that brings us to one of the most misunderstood words in health: inflammation. Inflammation is not always bad. Acute inflammation is part of healing. If you cut your skin, strain a muscle, or fight off an infection, inflammation is one of the body's normal emergency responses. You need it. The danger is something different: chronic low-grade inflammation. The kind that lingers quietly in the background month after month, year after year. That is the kind of inflammation increasingly linked to aging, frailty, insulin resistance, and a less favorable environment for stem cell function. So now the chain starts to make sense. Too much sitting can contribute to weaker muscle signaling. Weaker muscle signaling can contribute to worse glucose control and poorer metabolic health. Poor metabolic health can help drive chronic low-grade inflammation. And that inflammatory, metabolically stressed environment can make stem cells less effective at doing the very repair work you need more of after 65. This is why the title of this video matters, because the stem cells may not be gone. They may be living in an environment that keeps telling them, Stay quiet, do less. Repair is not a priority, but that is only part of the story. The hopeful part is that the opposite signal may also be true. Research suggests exercise can change the environment stem cells are exposed to. In animal studies, physical activity has been shown to reprogram inflammatory and immune signals across multiple stem cell compartments. In plain English, movement appears to make the body's repair environment more favorable. And in older adults, resistance training has been associated with an increase in muscle stem cell content, especially in the fast-twitch fibers that matter for power, balance recovery, climbing stairs, and preventing falls. That is a big deal. Because after 65, the goal is not simply to stay thin or keep the scale from creeping up. The goal is to preserve repair capacity, preserve strength, preserve reserve, and preserve independence. And this is where many people make a costly mistake. They think, I walk a little, so I'm fine. Walking is excellent. It supports circulation, cardiovascular health, mood, and mobility. But for many older adults, walking alone may not fully replace the signal created by resistance work, the kind of work that tells muscle fibers, tendons, connective tissue, and the body's repair networks that strength is still required. Here is the part I want you to hear very clearly. After 65, your body needs a reason to maintain what you want to keep. Strength is expensive for the body to maintain. Muscle is expensive for the body to maintain. Balance, power, repair readiness, all of that costs energy. So if your daily routine tells the body those things are no longer necessary, the body starts adapting downward, not out of spite, out of efficiency. That is why prolonged inactivity is so deceptive. It feels harmless because it is passive. But biologically, passivity is still a signal. And over time, it can become a very loud one. Now, does that mean you need intense workouts, heavy gym sessions, or athletic training at 70, 75, or 82 years old? No. In fact, the evidence-based message is much more encouraging than that. The CDC recommends that older adults aim for at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity, plus muscle strengthening activity at least 2 days a week, along with balance work. Just as important, they emphasize that some activity is better than none, and that older adults should be as active as their health and abilities allow. That means the real opportunity is not perfection, it is consistency. Stand up more often, break long sitting periods, walk regularly, use your muscles on purpose, practice getting stronger in safe, realistic ways. That is how you begin changing the message your body hears. And here is where it gets even more interesting. The stem cell story is not only about movement. Movement may be the daily habit that matters most for this video, but it sits inside a bigger biological network. Poor sleep timing, excess visceral fat, chronically elevated blood sugar, and disrupted circadian rhythms may also make the stem cell environment less favorable. Circadian rhythm is your internal timing system, your 24-hour biological clock. When that rhythm becomes irregular, it can affect hormones, metabolism, immune behavior, and the repair cycles many tissues depend on. So if someone asks, what shuts stem cells down after 65? The honest answer is not one thing, it is a pattern. It is the pattern of underusing the body, overfeeding inflammatory pathways, under-recovering at night, and creating an internal environment where repair is constantly pushed to the back of the line. But if someone asks, what is one of the most common daily habits driving that pattern? The answer is still the same. Too much sitting, too little muscle activation. And the reason this matters so much after 65 is because the margin for error gets smaller. When you are younger, the body can often absorb long sedentary stretches and bounce back more easily. When you are older, slower recovery, less muscle reserve, more insulin resistance, and more inflammatory drag mean the same habit can cost you more. More stiffness, more weakness, more fatigue, more trouble recovering from small setbacks. And in older age, small setbacks are rarely small. A week of inactivity can become a month of weakness. A month of weakness can become loss of confidence. Loss of confidence can become less movement. And less movement can accelerate the very decline you are trying to avoid. That is the real conflict in this story. Not that aging happens, but that modern life keeps amplifying the worst biological signals of aging without most people realizing it. So let's make this practical. What should you actually do? First, stop thinking only in terms of exercise sessions. Think in terms of total daily signaling. If you sit for long periods, interrupt it. Stand up, walk the hallway, climb a few steps, march in place, do 10 chair stands. Even brief muscle activity may help change the message from storage and shutdown to use and maintain. Second, walk most days if you are able. Walking supports circulation, glucose control, and whole body function. It is one of the simplest ways to reduce the biological stagnation that builds during sedentary living. Third, and this is the piece many older adults need most, include strength work at least twice a week. That can mean resistance bands, body weight sit-to-stands, wall push-ups, light dumbbells, step-ups, or supervised resistance training. It does not have to look impressive, it has to be repeatable. It has to challenge your muscles enough that your body gets the message, keep this tissue. We still need it. Fourth, train balance. Because balance is not only about avoiding falls, it is about keeping the nervous system engaged, maintaining confidence in movement, and preserving the ability to react. Once people stop trusting their body, they move less, and once they move less, decline often accelerates. Fifth, support the environment those cells live in. That means better blood sugar control, enough protein, better sleep habits, and attention to chronic medical conditions that create ongoing inflammatory stress. None of this replaces medical care. If you have heart disease, significant arthritis, diabetes, severe osteoporosis, neurologic disease, recent surgery, or repeated falls, your plan should be adjusted with your clinician. But the principle remains the same. Healthier signals support healthier repair. And now we come to the real payoff. The goal after 65 is not to chase a fantasy of becoming biologically 25 again. The goal is to stop sending old signals to cells that are still trying to help you. That is the truth most people never hear. Your stem cells may not need a miracle. They may need a better message. A message carried by movement. A message carried by muscle. A message carried by circulation, metabolic stability, and daily proof that your body is still required to stay strong, steady, and repair-ready. So no, stem cells do not simply die after 65 and vanish on a timer. But yes, daily habits may help determine whether those cells remain functional, responsive, and useful to you. And one of the most powerful habits in either direction may be the one most people overlook because it feels normal. Sitting too much. Underusing your muscles. Living in a way that tells the body to downshift repair. Dr. Becker here, and if this message hit home, I want you to do something simple right now. Think honestly about your average day. How many hours do you spend sitting? And what is one thing, just one, you can start doing this week to break that pattern? A 5-minute walk after meals? Chair stands during commercials? Resistance bands twice a week? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more science-backed videos on healthy aging, muscle preservation, inflammation, and how to keep your body working for you after 60, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that aging is not only about what the body loses, it is also about the signals the body still receives every single day. If you want, I can next turn this into a more viral YouTube format, with stronger hook lines, retention loops, and emphasis beats while keeping the same science.